Not sure you should assume I'm not corrupt, but you have to go to those people who have money, and they always want something. You run the risk of deciding whether or not you're going to prostitute yourself to give the answer you know they want to hear in order to get funded to run for that office. I went to the big guys for the money. I was ready to prostitute myself in the manner in which I talk about it, but what happened was they said, come back when you're 40, son.
All right, guys, so you got to talk about this pretty crazy clip from 1974 that was unearthed of Joe Biden essentially admitting what we all know about not just him, but most of, not all politicians, which is that they are sellouts. And in Joe Biden's words, he actually goes further, right? He essentially called himself a prostitute, which is a term that I like to use to describe politicians because that's what they are. They're prostitutes for their big money donors. So anytime you want to ask the question of why do politicians do what they do, why do they take the positions that they take, okay, why do they want to be so pro-war, okay, and things like that, it's simply because of money. They're being paid to do this. And this is something that back in 1974, Joe Biden admits out loud, okay, he talks about the process of prostituting himself to big money donors, right? And you should not assume that he's not corrupt, right? He just admits the quiet part out loud. And it is a wonderful and glorious clip because it can be applied today in so many different situations. I think it really does shine some light, a bright light on the corruption that goes on in pop.
So we can look back on that from 1974, what's that, 51 years ago? And then we can say, and you know, people change over time, we evolve over time. Maybe he's not like that anymore. But from what I see, he didn't know the game as much as he does now. Because back then he was mainly taking money from American corporate donors. Now he's taking money from foreign governments all over the world. So that's how different he has become. And the fact that he said these things way back then, goodness gracious.
Politics. And speaking of bright lights, that is why the sponsor of today's video is Lightbug by Pepper's Peak. A nationwide blackout could strike sooner than Lightbug is an old fishing trips. Pepper's code
The manner in which I talk about it. But what happened was they said, come back when you're 40, son. And so I had to go out.
That was the part that they showed
I
at
had
the
to
very
go to a
beginning.
number of small contributors.
Well, I think we're all grateful, Senator. You didn't take no for an answer. But Senator, aren't you a living example?
I am an anachronism.
Wait.
I'm a 29-year-old oddball. The only reason I was able to raise the money is I was able to have a national constituency to run.
He was 29 years old back then. Look at this. Look at this. This is a Peyton Manning looking forehead. He kind of resembles Peyton Manning a little bit. Goodness gracious. 29? Goodness gracious.
For office. Because I was 29, I'm like the token black or the token woman. I was the token young person.
We're talking about this national constituency. Some of the money that
That's
went...
not an announcement for office, by the way.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that.
Token
that is
black,
Joe
huh?
Biden.
Token woman.
Basically
Go
saying
ahead,
that during
racist.
his first run for U.S. Senate, he failed to get money because he was too young. But he tried to prostitute himself. Again, his words, not mine. He tries to prostitute himself out to big donors, okay? And again, this is an example of the overt corruption in politics, guys. I mean, this is what he's doing. He's saying, look, you know, I was trying to sell myself. Now, what do you think he's selling? He's selling influence, right? He's selling the fact that, hey, if you give me money, I'm going to do favors for you when I get elected. I'm going to work on behalf of you and not the American people, okay? This is what he's saying.
Right.
But again, this is why I laugh when people say that, oh, well, you know, America's a democracy, right? And I'm like, is it really a democracy? Is it really a democracy when your elected officials literally are bought and paid for? Okay, you can literally buy a senator. You can buy a senator and make him do a tap dance, okay? Do something strange for a piece of change. And it's very obvious. We talk about this with George Soros, how he's bought and sold these DAs across the country. And now these DAs are enacting these policies, these soft on crime policies that destroy these liberal cities, that allow criminals to run free and wreak havoc and to be agents of chaos. Now again, how did this happen? Well, it's because you had one figure, like a George Soros, or a few figures, whatever, with some money, that again bought some politicians, right? Bought some elected officials and made them do something strange for a piece of change, right? Like again, be soft on crime. I'm just saying that's how it works. That's how it works.
And let's be real about this type of stuff. Again, we live in a capitalist society. Money runs this. Duh. You knew that. Now, it would be you or me can say, well, if I got an office, I probably wouldn't accept all these money in turn for these favors and things like that. But depending on your position, they're going to give you an offer that you can't refuse in some cases. You're taking the money. And you're gladly going to take the money. Be damn what you were put in there to do to represent people. We have people that represent us. And be damn we're going to be caring about their business. They're going to take the corporate money. And when they get in there, they have these bright ideas. Well, yeah, we want to do this, we want to do that. And it's all in favor of the American people. But when they get in there, they really tell them what they're going to do. They'll let them get some of the things just a few of the things that they really want to do. They'll let some of that stuff get in there. But the bigger picture issues, no. This is what you're going to do. If you don't believe me, remember President Kennedy? Remember that?
So again, when you're talking about the destruction of this country, right? When you're talking about, like, for example, the border, okay, why don't any of the politicians do anything about the border? Well, because illegal immigration is cheap labor, right? These companies don't want to pay people minimum wage, right? If they can pay less than minimum wage, they would, right? So having these illegals come into the country and to work under the table is profitable for the big donors, right? And the big donors basically pay the politicians to, hand wring and virtue signal about the border, but they never go out of their way to actually close it. There's a reason why Republicans pushed back against Trump when he got in office and he actually really tried to secure the border. They was like, nah, bro, we don't want to build no wall. Why? Because their donors are like, hell no, right? Hell no. We want as many illegals as possible.
Right.
Okay,
cheap
that's
labor.
how it works. And what Joe Biden just said there demonstrates exactly what it is. You're prostituting yourself if you become a politician, right? You are selling yourself to the highest bidder, okay? But again, what you're seeing there is Joe Biden's willingness to sell himself so easily, right? Which is why I'm almost certain that he sold himself overseas to foreign entities through his corrupt crime family that now has been subpoenaed, okay? Republicans have subpoenaed James and Jim Biden, and now you have the mainstream liberal media, instead of asking questions about the overt corruption, right? And the evidence that...
Here might be an example of how this works. Follow me if you can. So you have a politician or a group of a few politicians, and you're going to have a company or a group of companies. Now, when I say we the people, I'm going to use Black Lives Matter as an example of how we the people can make a difference, even though Black Lives Matter was one of the most corrupt and ridiculous organizations that I've seen in my lifetime. There's this thing that goes around that BLM stands for Buy Large Mansions, because that's what the leaders of Black Lives Matter did, that they get no credibility. But the example I'm going to give is that they actually got people to get up and go out and cause havoc, wreak havoc, destroy businesses, this, that, and the other. And because of them, things changed. They definitely changed for the worse. But that's an example of we the people. It's a very bad example of what not to do. Now you go on the other spectrum of that, you get a group of people that want change for the better, and they're not freaking rioting and burning up their own neighborhood and, killing folks and all these things that BLM helped spark. But that's just an example of how it can go the other way. We, the people, like I said.
That we have that these two individuals were involved in money laundering and, you know, influence peddling with Joe Biden. No. They want to defend Hunter Biden and Jim Biden and play the whataboutism game.
House Oversight Committee has issued subpoenas for Hunter Biden, James Biden, and Biden family business associate Rob Walker. Do you have a comment on that?
So look, as you just mentioned, it's just breaking, so I don't have this information in front of me. I'm just hearing from you. Certainly, I would refer you to any of the personal representatives on this, on your question. But I will have to say something that I've said many times. This is an investigation that has been going on for a year now and has turned up zero evidence of wrongdoing by the president because there is none. But
They've turned up plenty evidence. They got the man's laptop with the evidence on it. All right. We're talking about Hunter Biden. The man was so high he forgot that he took his laptop in for repair. And so where he took it in for repair, you sign this thing that says if it stays here and you don't pick it up after a certain amount of time, the laptops belong to us. And he ended up turning the owner of the shop ended up turning the laptop over to the FBI. The FBI hid it and all these things. But luckily, he also sent copies of it to Rudy Giuliani, which is on the other side of that. So, yeah, they got the laptop with pictures and videos of him actually smoking crack and the process of it with prostitutes, among other things, which demonstrates that he was not in his right mind.
Republicans continue to double down on a baseless smear campaign against the president and his family.
Will you vote to hold them in contempt?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Why would they not be? What do they have to hide? I don't think so. You know, here's the deal, John. It's very, very clear. Why the hell would Hunter and Jim create 20 shell companies to be legal? We've seen time and time.
Yeah, so that's going to be the end of this. You can comment, like, share,